Today, Fear Factory released their 10th studio album, Aggression Continuum. It's been, 6 years since their last one, which is about as long as it's taken me to do a video. And I thought about doing a review for it, but I thought, I'm not really sure that's the way I wanted to go. So instead, what I'm going to do in this video is actually celebrate the majesty of Fear Factory. Back in September of last year, vocalist Burton C. Bell announced that he was going to be leaving the band, so this is the last album that's going to feature his vocals. And no matter what anybody says, it's an absolutely integral part of the band. I know the band are looking to go on without him, and maybe, well, I say the band, it's just Dino at the moment. Now, for those of you who are looking for an actual review of this album, you can find that towards the end. I will talk about the album a bit, but I will say if you can't be bothered hanging around or you don't want to wait, this is a particularly strong album, and if it is indeed the last album that Burton C. Bell is going to be singing on, then he can go out with his head held high, because it's a pretty damn solid album. But for this video, what I want to do, I've got a tier list. I'm going to go through all the albums and we're going to celebrate the majesty of Fear Factory. I think I might have already said that already. The reason I wanted to do this video is because Fear Factory are one of those bands who are incredibly influential on so many bands. So many bands have taken elements from them. And I just wonder how many people have actually forgotten what actually influential band they were in the first place. Anyone from my generation would have grown up with Fear Factory. I have to admit that I myself have actually lost track of the band over the years. They're almost like a metal version of the Ramones, in that you just kind of always expect them to be there. You always got to know that there's albums coming out and that they're somewhere in the background doing stuff, but maybe some of us have lost attention. God, it's been a while since I've done one of these. So what I thought would be good, I'm going to do an album ranking. It gives me a bit of a chance to go through the entire history of the band and remember why we should all be listening to Fear Factory so much, and I'll see where the new album sits within that. So let's get on with it. Okay, so we'll start at the beginning with Soul of a New Machine. Now, they did actually record an album before this, which would later be released as Concrete. They recorded it with Ross Robinson, but there was all sorts of legal issues. I can't remember what it was exactly, but I know that basically the outcome of it was that Ross Robinson walked away with the rights to the album, whereas the band walked away with rights to the songs. Now, many of those songs were actually re-recorded for Soul of a New Machine, but anyway, let's get on with the round. I'm going to put this in B for now, because I've actually got a soft spot in my heart for this, because, I don't know, I guess just nostalgia, but this is a really great album. I think this is one of those ones that they wore their influences on their sleeves right from the beginning, but they also they had their own sound right away. Two of the main influences that you can see on this album is Napalm Death and really, really heavy Godflesh vibes. Very heavy. But they did still have a vibe of their own. They completely made it their own. The production on this is it's not what we're used to with the later albums, well, the next album actually, but there's still a lot of really strong stuff on here, and I really enjoy this album. Martyr is fantastic. Scapegoat, you tell me that Korn didn't rip off the main riff in Scapegoat. Quite interesting how Ross Robinson worked with Fear Factory a couple of years before working with Korn. There was a bit of bad blood between him and Fear Factory, and they got a riff that ended up on Blind, which was very, very similar. Don't get me wrong, I love Korn. Jonathan Davis is one of the greatest frontmen ever, but you know what I mean. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff on this album. Personal favourite for me is Scum Grief, and again, it might be a nostalgia thing, but I remember seeing him at Donington 96, and that song always stuck out to me. Maybe it's just because there's plenty of footage of that on YouTube, which I might link down below in the description. Anyway, let's move on. Next up, in 1995, we've got Demanufacture, and let's not muck about. This one's straight up in S. Straight up in S tier. I don't know why it's called S tier, but there you go. This album is just a classic. It's not just a classic Fear Factory album, it's a classic metal album, full stop. I've actually done a full review of this album. I've really gone into depth on this one, so I'll put a link of that in the description if you want to go and check that one out. But there are so many good songs on this one. In fact, there's not a bad song on this album. This completely goes from start to finish, just amazing. Everything about it. The production is absolutely stellar. It still stands up to this day, way ahead of its time. Something I forgot to say about Soul of a New Machine actually was Burton's vocals, which started with this album and really, really crystallised on this album, was the clean and guttural vocals that so many bands have been doing since then. You know, Killswitch Engage, any of the metal, metalcore bands, or, well, in fact, any metal band that does clean and heavy vocals, owes a huge debt to Burton C. Bell. And they were doing this stuff right from the very beginning. So many good songs on this album. So many good songs. The production really took a step up on this album. Very clinical, very mechanical, very precise, which fits the band perfectly. Dino's riffing is absolutely on point. Raymond Herrera, his drums, incredible. Christian Olwalbers, I don't think he recorded bass on this. I think it was still Dino who did the bass on this. But anyway, I'm going on too much. This album's absolutely classic. Body Hammer has got one of the greatest riffs ever. Absolutely love that song. Such a heavy riff. Absolutely awesome. Moving on to Obsolete from '98, and I'm going to put this in A. It's not quite as good as Demanufacture. It's still a pretty damn solid album, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't put it quite up there with Demanufacture. This was their first true concept album. Both of the other albums had elements of it, and there was a kind of a through line, but this was actually written from start to finish as a concept. In fact, there's actually kind of a script in the sleeve for the album where actually really points out the story. We've got the Resistance fighting against the machines who have pretty much taken over at this point. Edge Crusher is the leader of the Resistance. Not only that, a goddamn good song as well. Smash It, Devour, Securitrons, Police State 2000. We've got, what else have we got on here? Descent, Freedom or Fire, Obsolete itself with Gary Newman on it. I could never stand the version of Cars. Always rubbed me up the wrong way. I could never stand that version, to be quite honest with you. But standout song for me on this one is High Tech Hate. This might be one of those ones that maybe is a bit more of a, not so many people have heard about, but this one is such a great song. Check out Burton's Scream as we go into the second verse. So good. Love the drums on this track as well. Next up, 2001, we've got Digimortal, and I gotta admit, I'm not really a huge fan of this album, so I'm going to put that in D, which might be controversial to some people, but this was one of the first albums that it kind of felt, rather than them leading the charge, that they were kind of following the trend. It's very, very nu metal based, a lot of the songs on this. There is some great stuff on there, but some of it is a bit, it's just not for me. Having said that, Linchpin is an incredible song. It is so catchy. It's just, it's great. It really is. But then you've got stuff like Back the Fuck Up, which it makes me cringe listening to it now. It really does. But still some really good songs on there. But yeah, not so much for me. Next up, in 2004, we get Archetype, and this album didn't feature Dino on guitars. The band had a bit of a falling out. I think actually they went on hiatus before doing this album. I think they kind of broke up for a bit, and then the rest of the band got back together without Dino. I might have got that wrong. Christian Olwalbers steps up to guitar. He does an admirable job, but he's no Dino. But he does do a solid job. Byron Stroud from The Mighty Strappy Young Lad joins in on bass, and yeah, I'm a huge fan of SYL. They're a great band. I'm actually going to put this one in C, because do I put it in B? Basically, I'm a huge fan of this album. I actually really enjoy it. A lot of people have got problems with the production of it. A lot of people say that Burton's vocals aren't maybe as good on it, but I don't know. I think he's actually got some really, really good vocal takes on here. It's got some great stuff. I mean, Slave Labour is amazing. We've got Drones, we've got Act of God, Corporate Cloning, we got Bite the Hand That Bleeds, which is kind of a little bit of a different thing to them. Cyber Waste is such a great song. Such a great song, and arguably one of the heaviest songs they've ever written. Cyber Waste is great. It's such a good song. The title track itself, Archetype, which was actually written about Dino. The infection has been removed. The soul of this machine has improved. Yeah, quite dissing lyrics, really. It's also got a really cool cover of Nirvana's School, which actually works pretty well. Yeah, I've got a lot. Actually, you know what? I'm moving it up to B. I really enjoy this album. I don't care what anybody says. I know a lot of people got issues with it, but no, I don't. I really enjoy this album. Next up, Transgression. And this will be no surprise to anybody. This will be down the bottom. The production on this one, I forgot to say about Archetype actually, the production was a little rawer on that album, but I actually felt that it did kind of suit it I don't know, there was something, it gave the album something of its own. With Transgression, it just doesn't work at all. This album felt really rushed. It came out literally a year later. It's kind of all over the place. I think this would have made a better EP than anything else. There are some okay songs on there, but yeah, for me it's bottom of the pile. Right, now then, Mechanize, 2010. This is one hell of a solid album. Again, the band, I believe, went on hiatus, or they stopped speaking to each other. I can't remember exactly what happened. Again, this sort of stuff keeps on happening with the band. One of the reasons that we kind of forget about them, I suppose. But in that time, Dino and Burton reconciled, and they got back together and they started writing material again. Byron Stroud is once again with the band on bass, but now we have the inclusion of the mighty Gene Hoglan on drums, the Atomic Clock himself. And so yeah, basically we've got a 50% Fear Factory, 50% Strapping Young Lad collaboration, and this just works so well. I mean, I've no doubt that Burton and Dino were the main writers on it, but even so, what a return to form this album is. Absolutely spot on. I love this album. So many great songs on it. Industrial Discipline, Controlled Demolition, Fear Campaign, Christploitation, and I mean, just check out Power Shifter for one of the most pit-inducing songs ever. It's so heavy. Real return to form. Where am I going to put this? It's definitely... I'm tempted to put it... I'm almost tempted to put it out with Demanufacture, you know. But no, I don't think it... I think Demanufacture stands on its own, but it's very close. Mechanize was a true return to form. So damn good. So damn good. Next up, 2012, we get the Industrialist. This album was back to only Burton and Dino. I think Burton again did bass on this one again, and I think they use... Yeah, they programmed drums for this one as well, so no live drummer on this album. Having said that, or despite that, it's still a very solid album. I really enjoy this. There's a lot of good songs again. Particular standout for me is Recharger and also New Messiah. I think they're great songs, but this is, again, you know, it's not as good as Mechanize, but the production on it is absolutely fantastic. The riffs are all there. Dino is such an underrated guitar player. His rhythm playing is just absolutely otherworldly. He's so precise, and that's all over this album. So the Industrialist, I'm going to put that in B. Yeah, not quite as good as Mechanize, but there we go. Next up we got Genexus. I'm going to put this one in C, I think. I didn't quite enjoy it as much as Industrialist. I'm sure a lot of people will be wondering why I've got Archetype and Soul of a New Machine above this one, but yeah, there was, I don't know, this one felt a bit sort of paint by numbers. There was some of the clean vocals for me left me wanting. Just the style of it. It had more of a, I don't know, almost like power metal kind of vibe to it in some of the cleans, if that makes any sense. There's still some really good stuff on it. Regenerate, Anodized, Soul Hacker's not a bad song, but you know, a bit too genty. Dielectric, the single from it, is actually really solid. Expiration Date is good as well. I mean, it's not a bad album by any stretch of the imagination. I can quite comfortably listen to it from beginning to end. But I mean, you know, bear in mind that this is just ranking them within Fear Factory albums. I'm not saying any of these albums are bad or whatever. It's just how I'd rank them for Fear Factory. So yeah, Genexus for me, down in the C tier. So that leaves us with Aggression Continuum, the new album. So let's talk a little bit about the album. It's the latest one. It's why you're all here after all. This was actually originally recorded back in 2017. And it didn't see the light of day till this year. Again, legal issues. This is a very strong album. Very strong album indeed. Better than Genexus for sure. You get a great opener with Recode, although it's a little bit more symphonic than I'd like. It's, you know, there's kind of, as I said with the last album, there's elements of it that are a bit too operatic, should we say, a bit too symphonic. The two singles that were released, Disruptor and Fuel Injected Suicide Machine, they neither one of them particularly grabbed me necessarily when I first heard them. Having listened to them a lot now, I really enjoyed both of them, so I'm really interested to see how this album's going to sit. And it might well be that this moves up through the tiers as the weeks go on. Obviously, I've only had so long to listen to it. But yeah, those two songs, the singles, have really stuck in my mind now. The title track on this is a real banger. really works. It's a great song. Purity's got an excellent chorus. I got to admit, the intro kind of reminded me a little bit of Replica at the beginning, but yeah, went into this amazing chorus that I really enjoyed. Collapse is sludgy and heavy as hell. Manufactured Hope had elements that, you know, there's a lot of synths actually kind of reminded me a bit of Rob Zombie's Super Beast, but turns into a complete banger. Cognitive Dissonance is one of the standout tracks on the album. Monolith has elements of Linkin Park in it, which is actually quite ironic considering that recently Burton got into a bit of trouble by suggesting that Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory album was actually a lighter version of Demanufacture, so kind of a bit ironic that they got a bit of a Linkin Park sounding song on this album, but it's a solid song. One thing that also really surprised me about this song, I was very surprised to hear that it had a pretty solid guitar solo from Dino, who's not really known for doing solos. His rhythmical precision we all know about, but yeah, he actually did a pretty decent solo in it, which worked really well. And then we have End of Line, which is a suitably fitting title, if nothing else, for the end of the album, because again, if Burton is no longer with the band, which is a real shame, then yeah, this is a solid end to a very, very solid album. And yeah, they can go out with their heads held high. Not sure what I feel about the band carrying on with a different vocalist. I know they carried on without Dino, and I do see Dino and Burton as the heart of Fear Factory. They did do one solid album without Dino, but without Burton's vocals, I don't know if I consider that Fear Factory. But this album, Aggression Continuum, for the moment, I'm going to put that... why has that come up? Yeah, for now I'm going to put that in the B tier. So not quite up there with Obsolete and Mechanize, but it's a damn solid album, and I've got a feeling that the more I listen to it, the more this is going to really grow on me and possibly get up into A. Sounded wrong. So there you go, Aggression Continuum. Very solid album, one that you should well be worth checking out. Not only that, you should be checking out the Fear Factory discography if you haven't already. So many great songs. I've been listening to them pretty much non-stop over the last 6 or 7 months, and I'd kind of forgotten just how many great albums and great songs they'd done. So innovative, so inventive in many ways. They've kind of fallen into this trap of, you know, repeating themselves a little bit more maybe over the last couple of albums, but, you know, bear in mind, they really did inspire so many bands over the years. Yeah, I kind of enjoyed doing this one. At the same time, I feel really kind of out of practice. It's been a long time since I've done any of these videos. I do have intention to be doing more stuff in the future. I don't know if I'm going to be doing album reviews as much. In fact, I probably won't be doing any album reviews for the time being. I might do some more of these sorts of things. There's a lot of bands I've been meaning to do in their sort of, you know, ranking their albums and stuff for a long time, so I might do some of that stuff. But one thing that I really want to have a look at is horror. So I'm really, really so into horror movies and stuff like that again at the moment. It's really, I think that'd fit well with the channel. Metal music and horror kind of goes hand in hand. So yeah, I'm going to be doing something about that. I don't know what yet, but it shouldn't be too long till I've got something else out. I might put a few more of these type of videos out in the meantime. But yeah, I do have intentions of doing some more stuff with this channel again. It's been a long time since I've done videos that I was interested in, and I kind of feel that desire to do it again. So thank you all for watching. I hope that this interested you, and I hope that you're going to be interested in some of the stuff that I've got coming up.